Hi, my name is Kacey Gantzer, and this is my husband Chuck. We live on a small homestead of about 2.5 acres. Today, we're going to show you our big garden, our small high tunnel, and a few of our raised beds and other creative ways we grow.
Here in our big garden, unfortunately we only get about 6 hours of sunlight a day, but we trade that for a creek that runs nearby, so I can use creek water to water everything in a 50-gallon reservoir barrel. And we also have great creek bottom soil, extremely fertile and very loamy, drains well, full of nutrients, and we'll show you around our garden here. Here we have super sweet 100 cherry tomatoes with marigolds and basil companion plants, alongside Ford Hook zucchini, 8 of those in this row, also with marigolds companion plants. This is the second planting of the cherry tomatoes. This is the first round of super sweet 100s. These went in the ground 15 days ago. They were seeded probably about 40 days ago. Also cherry tomatoes here, the super sweet 100s with more marigold. And these are our green beans, 3 different varieties planted on the same day, that you can see the different rates they grow: jade, strike, and goldmine. And the goldmine obviously lacking of the 3. And these are our onions. They were the first thing that we planted here. They've actually been snowed on twice. The second that we planted, that we germinated indoors under lights, was our spinach here. We've been eating on every day for several weeks now, actually. Direct seeded is a New Zealand spinach that's a little more heat tolerant as we move into summer. They were directly seeded into the ground, whereas these were germinated indoors and then brought and planted in the ground. And behind me we have our lettuce bed that we've been eating from for a couple weeks now, actually. And we're next planting a winter squash in place. We'll be pulling the rest of the lettuce out and replace it with winter squash. And here we have our transplanted kohlrabi, purple Vienna kohlrabi, bright light Swiss chard, and our first direct seed of the season. We have 6 varieties of carrots that are doing pretty well. Here we have our Roma tomatoes, along with basil and marigolds, companion planted. Also, brandywine pink in the next row over. We really want to do a lot of canning this season. It's more of a kitchen garden than a commercial garden. It's small enough to maintain and be able to preserve and can any extra that we have for the season. Here we use DeWitt woven ground cover to keep the weeds at bay. Water can go through, and it acts as a mulch somewhat to keep the ground moist from drying out. It's amazing. It's a time saver. The time that you save pulling weeds, you can maintain the property otherwise.
Welcome to our small 12 by 20 foot high tunnel. Early this spring, we decided growing food needed to be a priority for our family. We have 2 daughters, Adeline, who just turned 4, and Amelia, who is 2. We like to teach them at home, so this has become somewhat of an outdoor classroom for us. We've been growing a lot of greens and eating them throughout the early spring, and now we're about to harvest our very first turnip.
Okay, so in our high tunnel we started with a light till and introduced topsoil, peat moss, potting soil, a good loamy soil from the creek bed. And now we're about to pull our first turnip for the year. It's a purple top. So we had the frame for a couple years already. And this year when we constructed the high tunnel, we put wooden end walls and used wiggle wire to keep everything tight.
In our high tunnel, we're growing peppers, cucumbers, marigolds, multiple types of lettuce, and eggplant. We try to make sure we always have something new growing, so there's always something to eat from our kitchen garden. We are also able to start seedlings here in the high tunnel and have some storage. A question I get really often is, how do we take care of pests here on the homestead? Our garden, like any other, is filled with all kinds of enemies that want to eat our plants. One thing we use is OMRI rated, which means it's totally organic, is an insecticidal soap that comes in a concentrate, and you need a pretty good direct hit on the bugs to get rid of them. Our biggest enemy here are slugs. Living really close to a creek and in a shady area, we have major slug issues. We use Sluggo and a slug bait. These are both organic rated. They work pretty well for us, but we have to be really diligent about using them. And then in our high tunnel, we found that sticky traps work really, really well. The yellow attracts the bugs, they stick to it. We have one up here at the end of the high tunnel. It's been only up for about 2 hours and it's almost covered already with insects. We try to keep really close eye on it, always looking for eggs underneath the leaves. A lot of times that's where you're going to find what's lurking in your high tunnel. But we try to keep organic and do the best we can. We're not selling these products, so we expect a little bit of loss to insects. This is what we call the tea garden. It's an 88 square foot raised bed garden. It actually came before our high tunnel. This year in the early spring, we grew tulips in the front, and now we've converted to mostly herbs and tomatoes, oregano, basil, thyme, dill, and lavender. Over here we have onions, and our favorite part is our PTP. We're growing 3 varieties of peas, and then when these are finished, we will switch to pole beans. So there's always something growing in our kitchen garden.
In my kitchen garden.
Your kitchen garden? What else is in there?
And 2 types of oregano.
2 types of oregano. What else?
Creeping thyme.
Creeping thyme.
Tomato. Marigold. And lavender. And I'm gonna harvest my pea from my teepee. Yum, 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 yum.
Here's some pictures of the construction of our raised bed tea garden early on, about 2 years ago. We added leaves, mulch, topsoil. This is the big garden. You can see we have really great creek bottom soil, no clay and no rocks. This is where we currently have the ground cover down. Tea garden early on. And this begins the construction of our small high tunnel. We did a light till and then added peat moss, topsoil, creek soil, all kinds of good compost. We used an old high tunnel frame and then added plastic. We're considering a second layer next year. This year we went with just a single layer. There's our completed high tunnel right there in our yard. We started some seedlings in there this summer. Most of them we did in our basement under lights. And then it's our early planting of peas with our tulips. And our spring crop of spinach. and our early spring onions. This gives you a better idea of early season. This was our second planting of beans. We'll plant beans 3 times this season. And on June 1st, we planted our pumpkin seeds.